Yeah.
So I kind of feel like our guest speaker doesn't need much of an introduction as he's such a popular speaker at the IAPC&M. However, it would be negligent of me not to say, by way of some introduction, that I've always found Eric to be one of the most generous, no nonsense, humble kind of a guy, considering his wealth of achievements. He is indeed a master coach based in the States. He's also what I think of as a master of creativity, since he's co-authored over 60 books in a wide range of genres. Quite a few of them I've bought. And he's still creating coach training online programs. He's got to be one of the most prolific online content providers I've ever come across. So it was no surprise when I heard that he's also the co-founder of a new coaching app called Purposely, which is what this first in a series of 6 masterclasses is about. So let's learn how effectively we can use this Purposely app to improve the lives and the results of our clients. So over to you, please, Eric.
Thank you, Dawn. I have a lot of material, but I do hope to save some time for questions. So I look forward to questions at the end. The app Purposely doesn't exist quite yet. It'll be out in a few weeks, we hope. But there is a wait list available at gopurposely.com. The app will be free. I'll say it again at the end, but since people, of course, come and go, I want to mention at the outset that if you'd like to get on the wait list to use the app, you would go to gopurposely.com and there's a wait list box there. I think you'll find it interesting, and I hope as I go along, you'll see why this might be useful to you. By the way, Dawn called this a coaching app. It's not a coaching app, it's an app for human beings, but I think it's useful for coaches to use for themselves, but also use with clients to help deepen the coaching relationship and also to help clients stay with you. It's also a way to retain clients, which of course is not our main goal, but it's something that's important to us. So let me move through the presentation and then I'll take questions at the end. So of course, your goal is to help clients, not to retain clients. We're not grubby people who want to grab onto our clients and hold them forever. We want to help people. But if clients do leave after just a session or two because they're not sure what they're getting from it, or they're not sure what the coaching is about, or they're not sure if coaching is for them, then they haven't really had the chance to see how coaching might help them. So it's one of our hopes that people will stay with us long enough to appreciate what we have to offer and understand what we're doing with them, and for them to get over those initial weeks or months of not maybe making that much progress and being disappointed in themselves and giving up on themselves, all of the things that happen between coaches and clients. Those early weeks determine really whether there's going to be an ongoing relationship or not. So we want those early weeks and months to work well. So as the slide says, it would be nice if clients stayed for a while and got to know you and got to know your work. And I think that that's one of the beauties of the app that we're chatting about today, is it instantly involves clients in the work they want to do, gives them a way to keep going over the resistance of the first few weeks, and helps them stay with you. So this is where the idea of inviting them to use a life navigation app might help. And so the question is, a what? What is a life navigation app, and how might that connect to your work with clients? So we're speaking today about Purposely. My co-creator, Bharath is his name, and I have spent the last year building Purposely. It's built around a simple idea that I'll share in a moment. It's gone into production about midway in that year, and many software engineers and other folks have been working on it. It's quite an effort to turn a complicated idea into a simple app. Many things are hard to make simple, We hope we've made purposely very simple for folks. And so we've created an app that helps folks do the following, and you will see as I go through this list how this is exactly what you're hoping your clients will do. It's exactly aligned with what you hope your clients will do. First, the app uses the language of life purposes, helps people make the paradigm shift from the idea that life has one purpose to the idea that many things are important to us. And we're calling those many things your life purposes, which may shift over time. Your life purposes of today may not be your life purposes of 3 weeks from now or 2 years from now. Your health, you may take your health for granted today and not take it for granted a month from now. Things change. And so just as you invite your clients to identify what their goals are, we invite users of the app to identify what their life purposes are. Really a similar idea. We ask them to get clear on what they mean by a particular life purpose, just as you ask your clients to get clear on what they mean by a goal. So if an app user punches in health as a life purpose choice, as something that's important to them, we invite / demand that they get clearer on what health means to them at this moment in time. Does it mean things like diet and exercise or something else? What are the concrete things that health means to a given person, or creativity? If someone punches in creativity, well, that's all well and good, but what does that mean? Does that mean making more interesting soups, or does that mean working on a novel, or what does it mean? And as you know, if people have just a vague idea of what their goals are, they're not going to work on them. So the app helps them do the same thing that you want to help them do in session, and that is get clearer on what exactly they mean by their goals. The next step in the app and the next step in your coaching, again, exactly aligned, is that if someone says diet or exercise, let's choose exercise, what do they really mean? The app invites / demands that they name the actions that go with something like exercise. Are they going to the gym 3 times a week for 20 minutes? Is that what exercise means to them? We ask them to get clear on what they're saying when they say exercise. Almost close enough to where they need to be, but we also want them to calendar those actions. Are they going to the gym Monday, Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday? It's not that we, the creators of the app, want to know. It's that the individual needs to know for herself these things, or else she's much less likely to do them. And the app has all kinds of bells and whistle reminders that, oh, it's Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. and you're about to go to the gym. Congrats. So we can't wait for you to get some exercise in, blah, blah, blah. Some reminders / encouragements / celebrations of getting these actions done. And that's the next line, and that is the app reminds, just as you would wish if you had 1,000 hours a week to spend on this, you would wish you could remind your clients of all the things they have in mind, and you can't. You don't have a way of reminding every client about everything she's decided to do. The app does that for you. The app reminds your client that at 8 a.m. she was going to exercise, and at 11 a.m. she was going to work on her novel, etc. Because in life, it turns out that people need to be rewarded for the things they want to do. You'd think they would just want to do the things they want to do, but they also appear to be, there's a need there to be rewarded. There's a need for things to be gamified so that not only do you do the thing you want to do, but you get 7 points for doing it. I don't know why you need those 7 points exactly, but that seems to be what human beings need. They need 7 points for this and 9 points for that to do the things they intend to do. So that's built into the app. those ideas of gamification and celebration and rewarding. Because we're also hoping that all of this helps a client build self-awareness. This is not just about taking action, but also growing into the person you want to be, upgrading your personality, so to speak. Because we hope that the app will help with that also, we have different ways of inviting folks to reflect on what they're doing. So it's not just about naming things and doing them, but also reflecting on how it went or how it didn't go. And I'll talk about this more in a moment. We have different ways of inviting them to reflect on what's going on. The next, create a support team, is not in the first iteration of the app because it's turned out to be quite complicated to build support teams into the idea of support teams into the app. The next iteration, which will come out in 3 or 4 months, will have support team idea built in. This is where you come in. The app will be set up in such a way that a user can designate a handful of people, not 7,000 friends or 46,000 contacts, but 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people who are on their actual support team per life purpose. That is, if one of your life purposes is writing a novel, you might have a literary agent on that support team, but that literary agent might not be on the support team for you getting your exercise in. So we're going to have discrete support team. The user will create discrete support teams for the different life purposes. And you, as this person's life coach, can be on that person's support team for each of his or her life purposes. So you will keep appearing if the person hits on, I want to message my support team around creativity, and you're on that, and you've agreed to be on that limited team, that 7-person team, then you will learn about your client's progress that way. I think you see how this will help you. And of course, you get to decide if you want to be on any individual. If some random person sends you an email, please be on my support team, you would not agree because you don't know who that person is. But if this is someone you're working with, if you have an arrangement, if you've had a conversation with your client about how the two of you will use the app together, then you would naturally be on that person's support team. And you would now not have to keep pestering people about checking in with you. They would check in with you relatively automatically. Then the app will help folks monitor their progress, exactly what you would want them to do, with metrics like 7 consecutive days of showing up at the gym, or different ways of tracking progress. Because it turns out progress is not so easy to measure. We have to be a little thoughtful about what progress means, right? Because sometimes we take 3 steps back for 2 steps forward. If you're working on a novel and you just threw out chapter 3 because you don't like it, is that progress? Well, it's process for sure, but is it progress? So we've had to think through what progress means. Just as you would like to celebrate your client's efforts if you had the time, and if there was a mechanism for that, the app celebrates their efforts. The app knows, so to speak, that you actually have exercised 3 times this week, and you get some kind of, smiley-faced announcement, some celebration, some congratulations for doing the things that you intend to do. And then the bottom line thing, you want this for your clients. You want them to live a more self-aware, intentional, purposeful life, and that's what the app is all about. The app is making the argument to the individual. Imagine whether it's an 18-year-old or an 85-year-old, anybody in life is struggling to actually get to the important things, if they've even stopped to identify what those important things are. We're, of course, in a moment of particular confusion, but it's always been the case that it's been hard to know on a given Sunday what's really important to us. So the app does that for you. It reminds your clients that they intend to live a purposeful life and that this is one way to be helped to go about that. I would like to just give you 5 or 10 or 15 seconds to just feel through how this might help clients, first of all, and also help the client relationship, help deepen your relationship with clients. Maybe just think through how, in this split second, what language you would use to invite a client to try out the app or try it out with you. I'm not going to spend much time on this. I just want to give you a little pause to feel through how the app might help you and help clients.
I was wondering, Eric,
Sure.
as this app for the public, as well as an app as a tool for coaches to help their clients, if I was a member of the public using the app, is the accountability built in, or is that where I think, well, actually, I would still need my coach as well?
Is there accountability?
Built
Well,
into the app.
it's a little complicated because we don't want to criticize the user by saying you have not gotten to the gym once this month. You're an entirely bad person. Drop the app now. So celebration and progress and those kinds of things are more in the app than accountability. I'm not sure if I can answer that exactly because I think if just being with your life purposes in this way increases accountability, then accountability is built into the app. If it's a separate idea, then I think we've decided to not hold folks' feet to the fire, so to speak. And that's where a coach could do additional work or have a way of
That's what I was
speaking.
thinking.
That's right. Could have a way of speaking to accountability as a separate idea from what the app does. I think that's a great point that that's work that the app maybe doesn't want to do that the coach perhaps would want to do.
That's what I was thinking. They could dovetail very nicely and
Yep.
complement each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So let's look a little more closely. This is what we're inviting clients to do with the app. They identify their life purposes. And we have language around that. We have, blog posts about if for different cohorts, if you're a teenager, what your 10 life purposes might look like, and that would be different from 10 life purposes of a 40-year-old or an 80-year-old. So we have help and descriptive material to help folks get at this idea of life purposes. By the way, this is also my most recent book, Choose Your Life Purposes, which just came out a month or so ago. So we have lots of languaging and information around this idea of identifying your life purposes, just helping people make this very simple but important paradigm shift from seeking a life purpose, still looking for something, versus sitting down, settling in, and choosing your life purposes of this moment. That idea. Then if you've listed all of your life purposes, we invite you to sort of ramp up the commitment and call them choices. To really stop looking for somebody else to tell you what your life purposes might be. You don't need another lecture or another guru or another book. You have some choices to make. So we're helping people settle in and make those choices. That's what the language of the app does and the mechanism of the app does. The app invites you to create a limited list of life purposes. We kind of restricted, I forget the exact numbers, slips my mind, but whether it's 5 or 7, so that you don't make an incomprehensible list of 73,000 life purposes and then not know where you are. So the app gives you a way of going past the limitation if you really, really, really want to go past the limitation. But it suggests to you that you create a list that looks something like this. That is, you name your life purposes, health, creativity, etc., and you go to the next step of detailing what that means. the concrete actions that are going to go along with those life purposes. And the app does a nicer job than lists can do because it can keep each thing separate on a screen, etc. But this is essentially what the app is doing. It's inviting you to identify your life purposes and name the actions that go with each life purpose. Okay, just said that. Then you name the even more concrete actions like 3 times a week or 20 minutes for this or 45 minutes for that. That's the next level of identifying. To be very clear on what you, to have the user be very clear on not only where in the week each thing goes, but for how long, how much time is being designated for each thing. And this has turned out to be very complicated technologically. Calendaring is its own technology. Not to burden you with this technology part, but it turns out not to be so easy to get your life purposes onto your calendar as a mechanical matter. Turns out to be complicated. These are I'm just repeating here what naming actions looks like, how to have clients experience the concreteness of what the app does. And I do not let clients get away with not being concrete as to how they're going to meet their goals. It is not sufficient for me if a client says, I'm going to write this week. That's not a stopping point for me. I need to ask the next question, and that is, which days of the week and for how long do you think? What do you think? Let's get more concrete. So I'll just leave this slide up for a second, but you understand what's going on here. That is, we're pressing, the app is pressing the user to know exactly what she's doing. And of course, the app does this work of creating the right kind of to-do list where you see that you're going to the gym and working on your novel. Or those are all doing things. The app also supports being things like your intention to be more passionate or be calmer. Now, yes, you have to translate those things into language that connects to the idea of action. So that might be that you're going to spend particular 30 minutes meditating or particular 30 minutes writing wildly, if that supports passion, or however the user decides to describe all of that. But the headline there is the app supports not just doing things and doing things. It's not just a work organization app, but it's also a lifestyle organization app that helps you support the kind of person that you would like to be. Well, yes. And so the app helps you actually start attending to your life purposes in a daily way. Most people are not, even if they identify what's important to them, most folks are not getting to what's important to them often enough. They know that. We all know that. The way in which we're not getting to losing weight or not getting to writing our novel or not getting to be intimate with our family or not, etc. We all know the ways in which we're not getting to that enough. And the app is helping with that. The app creates or helps the user identify the idea of milestones. Slightly different from goals. Goals are goals, but milestones look more like this. Things that are celebratable, things that you can celebrate, things that the user can celebrate. And the idea of this slide, or the point of this slide, is to make the point that your client, the user of the app and your client, gets to decide for herself what a milestone is going to look like. What kind of language it's going to look like, what sort of activity is going to represent the milestone. So each one of these is a different kind of milestone. Some puts the milestone further into the future, like getting the draft of the novel done in 6 months' time. That's different from writing 20 times this month or writing for 3 consecutive days. Just doing this work in the app helps the user better understand how she wants to position herself with respect to the things she does. Does she want to relax and not pester herself week in and week out about setting a goal? Does she want the goal to be further into the future, like a novel in 6 months' time? Or does she want to very carefully set milestones that are very near, very close in time? Maybe the milestone is writing tomorrow, and that gets celebrated. The point of this is giving the client the responsibility for figuring out how she wants to monitor her progress. A coach does not have to figure this out for his or her client. This is for the client to figure out. The reflection part we think is very important because, to repeat, this is not just a keeping busy app or minding the things you do app. It's a building you into the person you want to be app. It's an upgrading your personality app. It's helping you do the things that make you proud of your own efforts. And so we invite clients to reflect in two different ways. There's a kind of running way, like keeping a journal way. And then there's the possibility / invitation to reflect on each life purpose separately, which is something that most people do not ever get around to doing. They may live multiple life purposes. They may do several things that are important to them, but the idea of keeping track of your novel here and your health here and your relationships here and your work life here, that separation, most people can't pull that off. The app helps you do that automatically and gives you a space to reflect on how each of your life purposes is going. And it gives you the mechanism of deciding to share with your team or your support group your progress with respect to any particular life purpose. And this is your choice. You're not obliged to share with anybody anything, including us, including the builders of the app. You're not obliged to share anything with us. But if you want your team of 3 or your sister, your coach, your 3 or 4 particular people to know how you're going with respect, how things are going with respect to your novel, the app allows you to do that effortlessly. So you're keeping track for yourself. And if you want to share, you're keeping track, you're allowing other people to keep track with you. And you can tell as a coach how useful it would be if you and your client are working on one particular life purpose now. If currently what she's trying to do is market her art, let's say, you don't have to pester her about check-ins. She can decide to share with you her reflections on how her efforts at marketing her art are going. And you can decide, you can set this up with your client. Maybe you don't want that information. Maybe this is too much coming into you from a client. You get to decide, the two of you get to decide how that works. You have the opportunity to know a lot about what's going on if you want that opportunity and if your client wants to share. This is a down the road thing, as I say, maybe 4, 5, 6 months down the road, where the app will allow you for each life purpose to invite people to join your team for just that life purpose. It's a very interesting idea. And we're also going to try to create the idea there'll be coaches, of course, you guys, coaches, but also people with shared experience who, if you're a novelist, some novelist who's in the same position, who's on her 3rd novel and hasn't had the first 2 published, etc. Somebody in your shoes who you might want to be on your team. It may not be somebody you the user, knows intimately, but it might be somebody who's exactly right for your team for that particular life purpose. So there's lots more to say about how building a team might look, but this would be your place to be on your client's team if you and your client decide that that works for the two of you. This feels like one of those slides that must mark an inflection point, don't you think? So yes, we celebrate and cheerlead. The app does that. You, of course, can pile on and celebrate and cheerlead more for your client, but the app is helping the user stay on track with lots of smart messages about understanding how 2 steps back may have to come before 1 step forward. It's not just smiley face cheerleading. I think it's smart life wisdom cheerleading. Well, that's our hope. If this is where that this is where the user gets to actually live her life purposes with you supporting her on that journey. This is for down the road. We will, in some sense, train purposely coaches, probably with a weekend workshop is my hunch is how this is going to go down the road. At some sort of low cost weekend workshop, and then you will be you'll be trained to understand how the app works. And then you will be referred to on the app as a purposely coach. You'll be part of some database down the road. This is not the next thing. If the idea of being a purposely coach, of being somebody who's referred to whom the app refers, just drop me an email. You see my address there. And yes, it is funny. It is still Hotmail. I do not apologize. It still works. Drop me an email if the idea of perhaps becoming a purposely coach down the road interests you. Obviously, no obligation, no anything. We're just building a list of coaches who think they might like to get trained a little more in this. And this is not a super big training. This is not the 13-month training. This will probably be a day or a weekend online. So I just want to run through a bit the idea of what your clients choose in life and what they'll be choosing on the app, just to give you a little sense of what life purpose choosing looks like. You've already seen some of these items on previous slides. This is just a little super refresher course, and then we'll get to some questions or whatever's on your mind. A lot of people are not doing well with their health. A lot of people. I think it's an amazingly large number, and they may not bring up health. If they're coming to you for something else, if they're coming to you as a creativity coach or a spiritual coach or a business coach, they may not bring up their health to you as something that's important to you. I would suggest, the app will suggest this because it has health as one of the top choices as life purposes. The app is set up in a way that choices are sort of prioritized visually, so you're more likely to see health than some other kind of choice. And I don't have the actual screens of the app to show you at this moment, but it would be clear to you what I mean if I had a screen to show you. But what I'm saying here is we can introduce the idea of life purposes and say something like, I wonder, so many people are having trouble with their health. Is that an issue for you, or is that up for you? That is, we can invite conversations around things that clients may not be bringing up because it just doesn't seem to fit into a coaching model for them, or it's not on their mind at this split second. What's on their mind is making more money at work or something. That's what's on their mind. But it can be on your mind. The idea of multiple life purposes can be on your mind. And you can say something like, I just want to make sure we've put our finger on the many things that are important to you right now. Yes, we're talking about this centrally. We're talking about X centrally, but I just want to check in about A, B, and C because I know a lot of people are, etc. That kind of conversing. So health is an important life purpose choice for lots of people nowadays. Relationship stuff, family stuff. Folks may not bring up that they're not seeing their children very often or that they're having trouble with their partner. That may not come up because you're not doing relationship coaching per se, but it's something, but it's real for all of us. And a lot of people are struggling with how their kids are struggling at school, whether it's elementary school or middle school or high school or first year of college. A lot of students are struggling for different reasons, including the massive diagnosing of, so to speak, childhood mental disorders, etc. This is a whole conversation. But again, the app is going to invite them to wonder if family is a life purpose choice of the moment. And you too can make that inquiry. I'll just run through some of these. I don't need to identify each of them. You get the idea of why career might be on a person's mind, or if they're presenting some other kind of issue, might not be on their mind, but might be worth thinking about because everybody has to pay the rent. Most of our peeps, we believe that most of the users of the app will be in that, whatever it is, whatever the percentage is, that percentage of people who think of themselves as creative or would be creative or want to be creative.
I am.
And that, I think you may need to mute folks, Dawn. I'm not quite sure. Thank you. People may not choose that as their life purpose choice if they didn't see it on a list in front of them or if you didn't bring it up. But most of the people we work with, most of the people I work with, whatever it is, what they were working on, also have that novel in the back of their mind or that art project that they started when they were 7 and that they had to let go because they needed to do a real job, etc. So we get to bring this up. We get to bring up the app does. The app helps support the idea of well-being, and we get to bring up the idea of well-being that it all has to work somehow together, that if we're working on goal A and goal B, that's all fine. But if general well-being is not being supported by our efforts, our coaching efforts or our life efforts, then that's not okay. This needs to be taken into account. I have a phrase that I'm starting to use about serene readiness as an inner state. So I think we want inner serenity. At the same time, we want to be ready to do things because one thing after another pops up in front of our eyes in life. So it's not serenity like we've emptied ourselves of thought and the possibility of action. It's not exactly an emptiness. It's more like a possibility that we're ready to tackle whatever is next. But again, you can if a client does not bring up the idea of what's going on inside, inner peace. Let me just make a parentheses point in a split second, and that is we have to be not afraid of going to psychological places with clients. It doesn't mean we do therapy. But if we're not real about people having an inner life and having psychological reality, it's hard to do real work with clients. So that's a lot to say in just a few words. And I'm not saying we should act like therapists, but I do think we are completely entitled to look at the psychological reality and the inner reality of our clients, or else we don't really know what's going on for them. And they don't really know what's going on for them if we're not putting that on the table. There are places where we have to help our clients be brave, and the app invites people, puts activism and social responsibility, so to speak, high up on the list of things they see to choose. We're putting it in their face, so to speak, because we, as the creators of the app, think this is important. And there are going to be lots of scared places in your client's being. You know that. They're not writing their memoir because they're afraid of offending their sister or something that's a scared place. There are lots of places where our clients need to be braver if they're going to get XYZ done. And so that's one of the things the app helps with is it increases bravery by putting these ideas front and center, and by acknowledging what's required, what the difficult things that are required to get our life purpose choices manifested. There's nothing, even though we're cheerleading and have smiley faces and what have you, we're not saying this is easy. We're recognizing that you may take 2 steps backward or that you may be scared to do X. We're trying to, just as coaches, we try to hold our client's hand in a certain way. The app wants to hold the user's hand in a certain way. Well, yes. We're for the app creators, namely Barath and me. We're for principled living. We hope that our users are, and we hope that you as coaches are supporting this. I'll let this go. I don't need to repeat things I'm saying. These are all ideas that may slip your client's mind because she has something else on her mind, and the app helps keep these things on her mind. And you, in using the app in conjunction with the client, can help these things remain on her mind. One of the big advantages, I think, or one of the big benefits for a user of using this app is that they actually change as a human being. They start to understand what it takes to be the person they've always intended to be. And they become braver and more passionate and more efficacious and more of the things that they've always wanted to be more of. Just by virtue of naming their life purposes, sticking with their life purposes, doing things each day, each week that are calendared for those, just by, so to speak, mechanically doing the things they intend to do, they grow. Nothing here that you don't know or that I haven't said. Anything small or large can be deemed important. That's for your client. That's for the app user to choose, and that's for your client to choose. Anything can be elevated to the place of life purpose choice. If you've decided that getting the last line of your poem done is the most important thing to you, then that's the most important thing to you. You get to choose. All goals can be reframed as life purpose choices, which I think infuses them with an extra meaning. To have a client say, this is my goal, is fine. That's great. We need clients to do that. But to have them then move the next step to, not only is it a goal, but this is one of my life purpose choices, elevates the moment, changes the moment. Any personality trait can be targeted for upgrading. That is, you and your client could be working on more passion or more calmness, more risk-taking, more this, more that. All of those can be translated into life purpose choices. And the last one, just to repeat, you get to decide what's important to you, and the user of the app gets to decide what's important to her. This is a peek at the look of the app. This is a screen. You'll see the join the waitlist. I'm not sure if I can't really point. You'll see the join the waitlist button. If you go to the website, gopurposely.com, you see the website URL at the top there. It exists. Gopurposely.com is available now. And just join the waitlist if you want to learn more about, if you want to get to use the app, which is coming in a few weeks, or if you just want to learn more. The website explains more of what I've been chatting about. I think the colors are nice. I think it's a good looking app, which is not my specialty, but I think it's a good looking app. And what's more important, I think it's an easy to navigate app. We've spent a lot of time making it as easy to navigate as is humanly possible. So what's next is any questions you may have. That's what's next for us. What's next more generally is to give Purposely a try when it exists. You can join the wait list at this URL. And if you want to learn more about being a Purposely coach, and that's all in its initial phases, we have no agenda around that, no real information for that matter. But by dropping me an email, I will put you on a list so that when we do have real information, you can learn how to become a purposely coach, if that interests you. Okay, I think we've left ourselves some time for questions and chatting, so I'll stop the share, Dawn, I think, and turn it over for you to notice if there are any questions or any thoughts, or let me just see if that's the last. Let me make sure that is the last slide. Yes, okay. Couldn't think of what else there would be.
Thank you, Eric. Inspiring as usual. I get a sense that you've brought the traditional coaching tool, the Wheel of Life, into the 21st century.
Good. Because we are in the 21st century, and so why not use what's available to us? I know we can fight with the things we can be disgusted with or upset with the things that are available to us, but we can also use them, I hope.
Yeah. And I think, as I said earlier, I think this is a nice tool. It's going to complement the work that the coaches on the call do, because it builds in that little bit of accountability whilst the app is gently challenging. And yeah, the client just might want the two in their dream team, the app and the coach. So questions, please. Just unmute yourself, raise your hand. Anne, I can see you've jumped the gun there. You're ready. You've got your hand raised. So you go first, please.
Thank you. The presentation was very good, Eric.
Thank you.
I wish to know whether you'll be able to put the presentation somewhere so that we can read it further, or where are we going to get the notes? What I've taken during this particular training was good, but not good enough. I wish to read the presentation for myself. The tool is very good, but in terms of actions, I don't know what you can say about sustainability of an action. Someone may be, say, having a health issue, and then there is that action as he reinforces what you come up with, but the sustainability aspect.
Absolutely.
If there is anything.
That's a messaging. That's right. That's a messaging question in the app. And we will have alerts and messages, again, very gently said, but it looks like you haven't calendared an action for your health in the last month. Just curious if you'd like to think about that now. Said better than I'm saying it. I'm just saying it off the top of my head. But we're going to be very alert to the ways in which people stop doing things and do things more intermittently than they say they were going to do them. We want to keep people on track through messaging. So that'll be the main way that the app helps clients, is that they'll get sweet sounding but forceful messages that they may not be attending to one or another of their life purposes. Or the invitation might be to have them reflect on whether their life purpose list that they made a month ago or 2 months ago is still appropriate. Maybe they don't want to be, maybe they don't want to hear about that they haven't been writing their novel. Maybe they want to remove that from their life purpose list of this moment. Then they get to do that. They get to change, they get to reorder, reprioritize their life purposes, add new ones, remove them. All of that. I don't know. We don't know if people are going to want to do this work. I mean, we're on a hope and a prayer here that folks are going to want to do this intentional living thing. We don't know if they will, but we're going to give them lots of opportunities to understand that they're not quite living up to their own expectations and what have you. So that's a long-winded answer, but I completely understand the question, and we hope we're going to address it in the app.
With regard to the
as to the other part, I think Dawn has the answer about the other part.
Yes, Eric will give us the slides, and my VA Rhea will make sure that everybody who registered for the call will get a copy. So a little bit of bedtime reading for you. I don't know who what the first name is, but C. Loftus has posed a good question on DPA. How are clients' information kept private and secure on this digital platform?
Absolutely. It's one of the big issues. It's a tech question that I can't answer, but it's uppermost in our mind. And it's one of the reasons the app has been ready for a little while, but the terms and conditions part and the privacy part and all of that is taking some time, but it's completely on our mind that the information goes nowhere and that everything is protected. I don't know the answer on a technological level as to how we're going to do that, but it's front and center in our minds.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, please? Karen, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Again. Yeah, so I'm concerned, like, if the client signs up for this, what happens, excuse me, to their subscription when they terminate with the coach? And, does all that information lost? And, so all that work.
Well, maybe it's a great question because I think that sounds like I've been really unclear. The user may or may not have the users may or may not have a coach. They're grabbing the app because they've heard about it, let's say. So it has nothing to do with being connected to a particular coach. The app is theirs to use whether or not they're working with a coach, and they would just continue if they stopped working with that coach, they might remove the coach from their team, so to speak, but nothing about their ability to use the app would change. Nothing would disappear. There's no sort of functional tech relationship between the coach and the client. It's just that the coach has invited the client to try out purposely, and the client has thought that that's a good idea. And then they've made some arrangement between them. Is that clear or still unclear?
Yeah, then I do have a follow-up question, if I
Sure.
might, which is that how would this not just replace coaches? This has become like a, its own. Would clients still need coaches if they're getting to do all this work online? I'm curious if it would just replace the need for a coach.
I don't have a good answer to that because I guess it could, for some given user, prevent that user from thinking that she needs a coach, that this is sufficient. So that it may be the case, there are inadvertent consequences to actions. We think the app, we have not built the app to support coaches. We built the app to support users. We think this is important for the human beings who find it and who start to organize their life more efficaciously around it. If that costs coaches business, that's an unintended, unfortunate consequence. I don't think it has to. I think that Dawn was pointing towards the place where coaches might have a very real and important place in the interaction, in the relationship. And I forgot probably what's the most important thing. We're going to be announcing that coaching is valuable as part of not each screen, but as part of this experience. So we're not saying we certainly will not, the languaging of this will not be, you don't need a coach now, this does it all. It's exactly the opposite languaging, that this is great for you and coaches can provide the following value in addition to what you get from the app. Thanks for asking that question.
Which is why you're going to be having purposeful coaches on a register. Yes.
Exactly.
Karen,
thanks for the question, because I forgot what's not an unimportant piece of this conversation.
Can I ask one more quick question, though? Just like what the cost of it might be?
It's free. It's free. The app is free. The app is free. The app is free. Wow. Well, it's a freemium model. I think that's the word. And that it's free. But if you want extra bells and whistles, you have to pay. And I forget what all of the things I've been chatting about are in the free app. Although that may not be perfectly right, because when you start to go to community and teams, that may be that may be where the freemium thing kicks in. I think I don't know what I'm talking about at this moment.
Okay, it's okay.
But the basic app, I know that the basic app will be free. I just don't know what basic means in that sentence.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Karen, I just wanted to add, as well as this app having the purposeful coaches directory, which obviously highlights the fact that a coach would complement this. We have at the IAPC&M a blog called Coach Yourself, because we recognized that there were people out there who either couldn't afford coaching right now or didn't know what coaching was. So it's a pipeline to the International Directory of Coaches when people have gone as far as they can on their own. Right, I've
Great.
been following 1 or 2 coaches, I've made progress in this area, I'm now going to invest in myself and work with a coach. So it works quite well, I think.
That's great. Thank you,
A few
Dawn.
more
That's
questions for you, Eric.
good.
Are there
Mhm.
plans for in-house purchases or future subscription level add-ons? That might be another technical question that's too much for you, I don't know.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? My ear
Are there
stopped.
plans for in-app purchases or future subscription level add-ons?
Don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
It's
we
going
can
to
get
be
the
hard.
answers later.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to prevent ourselves from doing those things. It just seems logical that there are going to be some kind of add-ons that get thrown in so that our intention is not to monetize this, but at a certain point you can't not think about monetizing it. So I don't have a real answer to that question at this moment.
Hmm.
Let
Colette,
me
who
just
you know,
repeat the
Eric.
headline. We're going to try to keep things as free as possible.
Okay. Colette, who you know from various other masterclasses, said, so the app then is a practical assistant for the coach and the client. I think that's
Was that a question? Was that a question or
I think
a
that's
statement?
a statement.
Great.
Statement.
Yes,
Yes. She's got
I'm
it.
agreeing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm conscious of the time. And as you probably know, if you're regulars at the IAPC&M, we're very passionate about CPD and business building and making it freely available to everybody. So we don't charge for CPD credits. And if you're not sure, 1 credit equals 1 hour. So you can download a CPD log and keep all of this on record. But we always like to end the masterclasses with just 60 seconds of you doing your CPD now, because if you leave it till the end, well, it is the end of the week, isn't it, for some of us? But if you leave it, you're less likely to do it. So perhaps in the chat box or on your CPD log, just in this next 60 seconds, write down what you got out of today's masterclass, what you've learned, what are you going to do differently as a result of investing your time with Eric today, please. Starting now. Okay, so lots of thank yous coming in as usual, Eric. I'll make sure you get a copy of the chat box. And perhaps
you.
for those people who had some technical questions, you can speak to your partner, your co-founder, and
Sure.
you can get those answers for other people at a later stage. So unless anybody has a burning question while we've still got Eric in the hot seat. Nope, great. I'm going to say thank you very much. Thank Crunchy, it's Friday. Here's to a restful weekend, doing whatever you want to do to replenish and nurture and look after yourself, ready for another productive week ahead. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Eric.
Thank